Hey, what's up guys? How's it going? It's me, Dakota Fisherman, and today we're going to basically cover a really quick start guide for Call of Dragons, and we're going to cover basically all the ways that you can get XP and all the efficiencies. I'm going to basically talk about artifacts, buildings, things to focus on as far as research, and just basically nitpick a bunch of different things that you'll obviously want to know. So to start out, okay, if you're going to be playing Call of Dragons right from the get-go, okay, you're going to be upgrading your Hall of Order. And then not long before you do that, you upgrade your Alliance Center. And as you're doing that, you're obviously going to be upgrading your Call of Order, and you're going to be basically following your main quest. Like, snip, snip, all the way through. I will tell you that once you get to the Dragon Trail, you'll basically want to burn as much time as possible into this thing, because this is where you're going to get a lot of experience books and Dragon Glass, which you're going to need from the store to get. Basically, you want to get access to Indus, okay? Because Indus is another gathering hero, and you want to get access to all your gathering heroes as quickly and as frequently as you use those gathering heroes. There are ways to basically get XP from your gathering heroes, which then translates to more resources, and in the late game, you're going to want that. I will tell you right from the get-go is that within the night camp, you'll basically want to be training workhorses. I wouldn't really bother doing knights for a while because, well, you don't really need them in the start. I mean, you really just need workhorses to be able to gather, and you'll focus in on that. That's really about all you need that for. Doing the very bare minimum on those buildings is really what I recommend, because you want to focus in on upgrading your hall and just mass leveling that way. Now, it is obviously, kind of dependent on the amount of CP you have, so you want to make sure that you're going to the store, grabbing your basic CP recoveries, and then dumping your gems into the honorary membership. Because by honorary membership 8, you get 2 slots for research. Now, you can buy the building queue for 2, and that's an easy, fast way to get ahead. I will mention that as far as everything goes, I would say primarily you want to focus in on getting the most amount of use out of your CP per day. Now, if you're wanting to know what is it that I should do, you need to first establish what faction are you playing. Okay, now the only thing you need to know as far as factions are concerned, really, is that between League of Order and Bakar, which is that's one of the goddamn heroes, but I always forget his goddamn faction because it's so bloody. Wilderberg, okay. The main thing with this faction, Wilderberg, League of Order, and the Spring Wardens, okay, is that with the Spring Wardens in particular, you get range cav. And then the other thing is you get melee cav. Flying cav is melee. Okay? And then obviously you've got that going for you if you're playing Spring Wardens. If you're League of Order, your main focus is going to be Celestial, which is flying magic heroes. And then you've got your Vestals. So you've got that going for you. And again, really about the only thing significant there is that your cavalry are cavalry. They're melee cavs. Now, it should be worth mentioning that if you are with the Wilderbergs, you've got flying marksmen, so that's a ranged flying unit, and your cavalry are basically, there's a different variety with each faction that you play. I mean, to really kind of get into it further, I guess, just to look at it, we'll go ahead and poke it real fast and gloss over it. But basically, all I'm saying here is that if you play Magic, you're going to be probably League of Order. If you're ranged, chances are you're probably playing the Spring Wardens because of all the bonuses that you get along with your range cav. And then if you're wanting to play the Wilderberg, chances are you're going to be getting the Worker Rhinos bonuses, your Wolf Riders for your melee cav, and then you're getting the Marksman Range Riders, which are your dragons, And the bonuses and the differences between those two factions aren't really significant until you see the flying heroes that are out in the game. And as you might know, there's really only like 2 or 3 of them, I believe, out there right now. So it's not a primary focus for most players, but down the road, flying units will become pretty important, I feel like. Now, aside from going ahead, burning up all of your XP into 1 or 2 heroes that you've picked out, and again, you will probably not have access to all of them right from the get-go, but as you'll go ahead and burn gold chests and 10x, I don't recommend doing it in one-ops. Just do them once you've got 10, pop it. That's the easiest way to go about it, because you'll get a guaranteed epic or a legendary every time you do that. But basically, once you know, okay, I'm going to focus in on magic, archery, vice versa, work on those 2 heroes. And you want to work on the 2 heroes that have a kind of a beneficial pairing. So, for example, if I'm doing Villain's a really good magic, and he's a control hero. Control basically means that he can slow the shit out of an army and simultaneously do a bunch of magic damage. So he's like the perfect anti-infantry. Like the moment somebody's going by hitting alliance buildings, he's not only going to slow the swordsman because, magic counters infantry, but he's also going to do a lot of DPS on them because of his abilities. Now you take somebody with Walder who's really rage magic damage focused, and you got that on top of it. Now, it should be worth mentioning that if you play League of Order, the Celestials have better DPS for magic than the Vestals do. So, effectively, they are the best magic units in the game as far as using them goes. Now, if, let's say, you go with Thea, Thea's like an overall hero, so effectively that means you can pair her with anything. So, Thea's a really easy point-blank, like, tank-type hero from what I've gathered, because she basically buffs shielding-wise and makes it easier if you're tanking with swords. And, for example, it's really overall a good arc hero. I'm not going to get into every single hero and their benefits, but the main thing I will point out is that if you're going to do upgrades on any hero and you're going to do it in very quick fashion, I highly recommend you do all of your gathering heroes, which are going to be Kella, Cha-Cha, and then once you get access to them, you want to get Pan upgraded as well as Indus. Now, you might notice I'm a little slow behind because I just got Indus, and I'm fixing to get Pan upgraded because I just got Pan. So I'm working on getting those heroes up, so that way I've got 4 gathering heroes that I can rotate on the AFK hours. And then those XP bonuses and everything that I get along with them, and all the resources that come along with them. Now, beyond that, once you've gone and done all of the nitpicking that I've suggested so far, the one thing that I will point out is that as far as life hacks go, this is one that probably no one else is really spilling, as far as I can tell, is that if you do Mist, you want to basically go down 4 squares, and then from the square to the furthest right, you want to take one of the 4th scouts that you've got, or whatever scout it is on the 4th square, and move him up. And what he'll do is once in a while, he'll freak out, and he'll jump across, depending on the area. So for example, like, if you're scouting in a mountainous region and he does not see any alternative way to get around this region. So like, for example, say I've got this guy over here, and the only way to get here is for him to go all the way around and go through here and then go all the way over here. You can imagine how much mist you're going to clear that way. Now, the benefit of doing that is then you can go into the Explorer report, and you can basically spam do all of the villages, which is going to give you everything from gems to speed ups to, like, there's a whole lot of bonuses. Plus, even still, as you run into treasure maps and astrology camps, you'll basically get free research. It's an easy peasy way to get ahead very quickly. Now, one thing I highly discourage is doing common chests. So, if you see common chests, don't waste your time. If anything, look for the rare and superior chests, because you'll find them located on mountains usually. So, like, for example, I'll point one out to you that's over by the Wolf Shrine. So you'll see that if it's got a blue tint to it, that's rare. The purple tint is kind of a superior chest, which is the higher tier. And obviously, the higher the tier they are, the more difficult they are to do, so you need to be in a guild when you're doing it. But beyond that, really about the only other thing that you need to know is that, generally speaking, I think a lot of people will go ahead and they'll spawn. And if your alliance is kind of clueless as to what to do, where to go to the Wonders, because those have the highest tier nodes for resources, and then check your Alliance resource tab, and that'll tell you actually what type of resources. So basically anything around a Wonder is usually 4 or 5. So if I go to the shrine, I'm basically getting really decent, or if I'm at the Wolf Shrine. But it's going to vary depending on where you are on the map. So like where I'm in Daraland, it's a little different. Obviously, if you're in another part of the region, a little different. It's going to vary. Now, aside from that, if you've already picked out pretty much the location, you want to make sure you're looking around the behemoths for acolytes. And effectively, you will kill acolytes at some point in the game, probably about, I'd say about 7 to 8 or so in the Hall of Order level. It's usually about when you first get access to the giant bear. Because what you'll want to do is basically look for the mana stones that you can get for basic CP recovery, because that's more CP in your pocket, which you can then use to basically level your heroes faster. Plus, all of the other bonuses that come along with CP. And again, really about all you need to know as far as that goes is that if you get more CP, you're effectively getting more access to more arcane dust. If you're, say, hitting the dark creatures, it gives you more bonuses to, say, do an event like Ileana's Crisis to get more medals. And, there's an incentive there to make sure that you do that. And then obviously, if you're going to be doing the behemoths, the forts, anything relevant to an event, that's a really easy way to get ahead. Now, beyond everything I've told you at this point, I'd say really about the only thing you would probably want to focus in on is your artifacts. Now, if you don't know what artifacts to focus in on, I'd really say any of the gathering artifacts are just a plus right from the get-go, because that's more bang for your buck in terms of, obviously, and I say this over and over, you want your gathering heroes to be the ones that you focus in on the most. Everything else really ought to come second. Because in the early game, you're not going to fight a lot of players. It's not going to be yes, I'm going to fight you. Like, you're not going to do it. Because you're going to want to avoid conflict as much as you possibly can when you're beginning out. But as you progress, I would say the next thing you want to focus in on is probably your peacekeeping artifacts. Like the Karada's Wrath is a really decent one. As far as purple tiers go, I think a real good popular one for archers is Bomb Flinger. For cabs, they get Cloak of Stealth. Cloak of Stealth is pretty goddamn cool because you can hide. But it also has a huge downside, which is that it slows your march speed down a lot. Of course, in the Shidorion of Advanced Incantations, that's like your basic magic book. Not a big deal. The Homecoming Blossom is useful because that can get you your troops back in a hurry. So if you need to, getting attacked and need to free yourself from running into a problem, that's an easy way to get out of that problem in a hurry. Your shields like Friesen Ring or Codex of Prophecy or the Blade of Reproach, a lot of these are not really that useful. I wouldn't bother with it too much. A lot of these purple tiers are not what I would describe as, obviously in the blue and greens. You wind up using blues and greens really just to upgrade your purples, and your purples to upgrade your golds, and so on and so forth. But I would say most of, if anything, know full well that artifacts are going to be one of those things that you want to probably hang on to. And as you progressively upgrade your heroes and really narrow down what it is that you're going to be focusing in on, you can then dedicate those artifacts that you had spare towards the artifacts that you know are good in slot for that hero. Really about all I can say about that, though, as far as knowing hero pairs, which ones to use, why, and so forth. I will make some more guides covering different hero pairs that I know are working really, really well and synonymous with each other, but what I can tell you, at least from at a glance anyway, is that Emery's is a really good cav hero. Guanwin's not a terrible epic as far as archery goes. Walder's a good epic for magic. Bellin's really good for, obviously for legendary magic. I would say Lilia, where Lilia and Bellin differ is really just Lilia's more in line with doing magic DPS like you would if you were doing Walder for rage skill damage. But, whereas, for example, if I look at, Nika, that's peacekeeping infantry, mainly, knowing what their role is a really, really big factor in how you determine which hero to pair with, because certain bonuses, if you're fighting player versus player, you're going to focus in on those skill sets. It should be worth mentioning, though, that every primary to deputy, the main thing is that primaries get to use their artifacts and their talents. The deputy does not. So once you hit 20, that deputy does not get to use he does not get to use the artifact that's attached to him, nor does he get to use the talents that he has, and not all of his Legion capacity. I think it's half of his Legion capacity gets added to the existing primary. But beyond that, I believe his skills do actually get used, so you do have that going for you. But beyond that, that's really about all there is to it. But more or less, with everything I've discussed, I would say if you've focused in on basically increasing your stamina and CP within the research building, you're doing your main quests to get a lot of gems, and then you're using those gems to focus in on your honorary membership, I'd say really that's about all that I can recommend as far as encapsulating your bonuses and everything. That's really about all a person can ask for as far as a quick start guide. And that's really all you really need to know. But needless to say, feel free to subscribe. You like Call of Dragons. I do once in a while upload a video too like this to try and cover as many different topics as possible that are tutorials that will hopefully help you if you didn't know a certain thing or two. Because I will generally pick up on things that I don't think everybody knows. Needless to say, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.